Welcome back. So traffic has already started on some of South Africa's major roads. A 2023 report by the Road Traffic Management Corporation has revealed a staggering toll of truck crashes in South Africa, with 2,237 fatal incidents involving 3,546 trucks over the 5 years, averaging at least one fatal crash daily. Alarmingly, over a third of these accidents involve pedestrian fatalities. Joining me now to unpack this is Tony Modise, who is from the South African Truckers Association. Tony, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. So what happens in the trucking industry during this particular period? Because we've heard, for instance, from the taxi industry about their safety campaign. We've heard from the buses as well, speaking about their safety campaign. But what happens with the trucks?
Well, Aldrin, firstly, thank you for having us. With the trucking, we usually have our own road safety campaigns. We've been having them for the past 2 to 3 years, where we go through the different way bridges that are very active. And we host our road safety campaign there, engage with drivers, and then also try to give them some refreshment and get some sort of insight from them. But then now this year has been slightly different, where we had engagement with the Office of the Deputy Minister of Transport, where we agreed that we came up with strategies as well to have quite a very integrated approach, which is not only focusing on trucks, but then also focusing on basically the whole transport sector, where we are effectively moving into different spots. And the idea around it is to make it a point that we engage with our truckers, and they also engage with the motorists as well at large, while we are focusing on some of the key areas. In the country, there is around 20 hotspots currently, based on the research that was done by the Department of Transport. They were fair enough to share that data with us. And within these 20 hotspots, there's also 800 traffic officers nationally. Now, within these traffic officers nationally, they are going to be dispatched into these different areas to make it a point that they are more visible, and they are enforcing the law into those offenders. Or also, it will also give some sort of a relief as well into I think the freight sector at large. But then what we're trying to focus on is to focus on making it a point that we are visible enough, and we are making it a point that we are not against the drivers, we are with them, and we want them to rest, and we want them to arrive alive.
Yeah, not against the truck drivers, but what about some of the truck owners, or perhaps even the companies that own these trucks, and the pressure that is then placed on the truck drivers to go and deliver whatever products it is that they're carrying at the time? Because that too leads to a lot of the fatigue that we've seen, and sometimes leading to crashes that end up being fatal.
Of course, we are a member-based association. And as a member-based association, our members are truck owners. The first point of reference, or rather of conversation, it is through our owners, or rather our members, who will effectively spill over that information all the way to their drivers. So the key is we're making it a point that they have to rest enough, and them resting enough at least those 2 hours interval while they are driving. And with our members, that's where we're getting more information from. Look, right now, the industry is slightly different from where it was a couple of years ago, where we know for a fact that there are hash cams on each and every truck, which is quite a requirement, which is literally able to monitor fatigue while they are monitoring some sort of other behaviors from the drivers. So once you're able to monitor things like fatigue and also some behaviors from a driver, I think it gives us accurate enough data in terms of being able to pinpoint in situations where there might have been some sort of an accident and an error in terms of what has caused it, and what do we do as an association, and what type of conversation are we going to have to make it a point that we make sure that those are being reduced in future and they don't really happen as they've been happening over the years. If you can pay attention last year, we saw the numbers of fatalities on the road during the festive being reduced significantly. And then we're hoping for the same thing as well this year, that the numbers of fatalities on the road becoming reduced. And this will literally, the key is to save life and make it a point that everybody reaches their destination.
Yeah. What are your norms and standards as the trucking industry when it comes to drivers resting? For instance, Arrive Alive would encourage us private drivers to at least rest every 2 hours if you're traveling long distance. But what happens in the trucking industry, considering the long distance that they have to travel and sometimes even between different countries?
Of course, the same model applies as well. They need to make it a point that, look, they need to work for a good 9 hours, but then this good 9 hours that they have to work, that is max. They have to have stops while on duty. And these fatigue cameras, they also dictate if you are not stopping, and then it will start sounding alarms. So the idea is still follow the same path, or rather the same route, that they must always be able to rest each and every 2 hours. And the beauty about it is we communicate on a regular basis, so we are able to know that what challenges do they have, and how can we assist them. They must also have enough sleeps. Hence, the priority that is they have to make it a point that they don't have to rush into the next point. They just have to make it a point that they know at this time of the year there's more traffic on the roads, and with this more traffic on the roads, they must be more careful. And effectively, for you being careful, this means that you need to have enough sleep. From having enough sleep, you need to be able to take walks every now and then, just so you are still fresh when you have to get at the back of a steering wheel while driving. So are we still applying to that model of 2 hours interval, which is playing quite an important role, really.
Yeah. And what about the truck stops? Do you think that as a country we have enough of those? And with that said as well, the question about the safety of the truckers and also the valuable goods that they're carrying.
Well, at this point, I think those comes with infrastructure development in the country, with better infrastructure, with better distribution networks. That is something that will happen over time. Then we will start having enough truck stop. But then remember, we have quite a huge number of trucks nationally. And the truck stop at this point, we don't have any type of complaints in regards to them. We already know in terms of our route planning, in terms of where are we going to stop, and also where are we going to sleep, where are we going to rest. So in this way, it is creating quite we are comfortable with this current environment when it comes to that situation. The truck stops are very helpful at this point, and I believe they're enough, but then now they can always be more. So it can be a lot more easier for us to be able to manage, or rather our drivers to be able to manage.
Yeah.
Not that they are not managing currently.
Okay, let's quickly speak about the situation in Mozambique. We just concluded a conversation with the MEC for Economic Development in Mpumalanga following a meeting that was held yesterday between the two countries' officials around how to deal with that issue and also the safety of trucks traveling into Mozambique and out of Mozambique into South Africa. From the SA Truckers Association, what's your plan and what's your observation about what's happening in Mozambique, considering that on Monday the Constitutional Council will make that announcement and declaring the election results?
Great development so far. We believe in dialogues, and I think this is something that we've been advocating for, most especially in regards to the challenges in Mozambique. And we are happy that I was also engaging with one of our colleagues at International Affairs within where we get more information in regards to the new developments. But then look, it was not an easy one. We ended up having around trucks that were staying there for like 7 days. And of course, we are happy with the support as well from the law enforcement in making it a point that our truckers are protected. And we are happy with the Border Management Authority as well in terms of keeping us informed, including the CBRTA, which was keeping us informed as well in terms of what is happening. But then now we are glad that the border is open. And it was more open, I think, around Friday last week at a stop-and-go basis. And with different engagements, we're exploring different borders, such as Mananga border post, which we figured that the challenges must still be the same. And with the challenges being the same, but then now they are more extensive at the back of Mananga border post. You have to go through Swaziland, which is at around 30 kilometers, or rather 60 kilometers from Libombo, which might add to the cost of operating. And then we did engage with our truckers in terms of having them to start rerouting, or rather to start focusing on looking into the other borders. We're looking at the Richards Bay and Durban Port as well, which some of the truckers did follow. And then now we're glad that the border is open, and at least some of our truckers as well will offload, go back and be with their families for Christmas.
Yeah. What happens if the declaration by the Constitutional Council in Mozambique leads to more violence and maybe a decision by the BMA, because they said that they're going to continue to monitor the situation, to close down the border? And I'm asking this question on the basis of what we've seen the truck drivers go through and the indignity that they are forced into, taking baths in rivers and having to relieve themselves in open fields because there are no ablution facilities.
Of course, it's not an easy environment for anybody to live in. And we were looking at the route, or rather the distance, the queue rather. It was at around 25 kilometers. We were looking at around 1,000 to 1,500 trucks. And look, the situation still remains volatile up until there's a declaration of a new election, which might change the situation. But then look, with the BMT and also many of our stakeholders, we will just keep an eye on at the border post in terms of, on rather in Mozambique as well, in terms of the new happenings. But then the Department of Transport played a important role with bringing in mobile toilets as well, and then there was fresh water that was brought in for the drivers. It's not an easy environment to live in, and we are hoping that the situation in Mozambique can really be fixed. We believe dialogue can always find a way in fixing situations, just so we are able to function properly as well, because this situation is not only affecting us, the truckers, but then it's also affecting the Mozambican economy at large, which will also affect the SADC region and affect our economy here in South Africa. We saw one of the companies closing down in Mozambique because they couldn't get coal inside of Mozambique. So these are some of the situations that are really concerning as well. While we are still trying to figure out ways in terms of finding better positions to get inside Mozambique without having our truck drivers affected. The good thing at this point is there hasn't been any fatalities at this point. There hasn't been any sicknesses that we heard of, or other forms of violence that we heard of. Which we can say is good for now, but then now we just need to make it a point that we keep on engaging with our Mozambican counterparts, just so this situation can get over and done with, and then life goes back to normal. But then with the current engagement at this point, we are happy that South African government ended up being involved fully in terms of these dialogues, and we just can only remain hopeful that it can be better.